could take my time and discern where my money should be sown.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
So has there been a change in tithing? Yep, absolutely. Now we get to choose a righteous servant instead of being bound to an unrighteous servant who happened to have the right DNA. So we're in a better covenant, built on better promises. Why is it a better covenant? Because we get to choose a righteous man or woman. We're not bound to give to them just because they're a Levite. Come on, somebody. This is so good I'm sweating. Verse 28. Bamidbar 18:28. So you shall offer a terumah offering to Yahweh of all your maaser that you receive from the children of Israel. Listen, sons of Aaron, even you shall give Yahweh's terumah offering to Aharon the Kohen. Notice Yahweh shows us that we need a good attitude in tithing, because Yahweh receives his tithe, then gives it to a leader in Israel. First, Yahweh tells the leaders, pay your tithes to me. And then the people will pay their tithes to you. But the people will not pay their tithes to you until you first pay your tithes to me. Do you see the principle here? We're all equal in the sight of Yahweh. Amen? Todarabah. Yahweh. Go to Devarim 12:6. We're going to go quickly. Devarim 12:6. Well, I know that, sister, but I don't know. We got a lot of flesh here, you know, including my flesh, sweaty and hungry and all the other stuff. But I know what you're saying. Thank you. Devarim 12:6. And there, meaning in Jerusalem, you shall bring your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your maaser, your heave offerings of your hand, your vows, your terumah offerings, the bechorot of your herds and of your flocks. Verse 17, Devarim, Deuteronomy 12:17. You may not eat within your gates. Now don't miss this, because it doesn't say what you think it says. All right? Which is why we have a teacher. It doesn't say what you think it says. You may not eat within your gates the maaser of your corn, or of your wine, your oil, your bechorot of your herds, or your flock, or any of your vows which you vowed, nor your terumah, free will offerings, or your heave offerings in your hand. Now, what this means in Torah time, I shouldn't say that, in temple times, was you bring your tithe to Yerushalayim, to the Bet HaMikdash, or to the Hekel, to Yahweh's Hekel. Amen. But how do we apply Devarim 12:17 to our times? What does Devarim 12:17 say? We know tithing is eternal. We know the principle of tithing is eternal. How do we apply Devarim 12:17 to our times? Ted, what does it say? You shall not eat the tithe, Yahweh's tithe, inside any of what? Your gates. Can we talk? You know what Rivka and I used to do when we first started the ministry? We used to take 10% of our income. Yeah, I'm getting close to you. Just relax. Couldn't do this a year and a half ago.
Amen, amen.
Flex it, brother. Flex it. Check this out. I'm almost acting like the guy on the TV. Rey de Jesus. Hermano Maldonado. Anyway, I've lost my mind. Where was I? Can we talk? You know what Rivka and I used to do? We used to take our 10% and go, well, we got to pay the rent, we got to buy coffee for the shul, we got to buy, so we take our 10% and sow it right back in our ministry. Bad rabbi. Bad Rebbetzin and Rivka. You can't sow that tithe inside your gates. You're going to have to find somebody else's gates to make it a tithe to Yahweh.
Yep.
All you're doing is stealing from Peter and giving to Paul and shifting funds. You might as well go online, take 500 from Regents and put the 500 in Washington Mutual. It's still your money. I may not be preaching good today, but I'm preaching pretty.
Come on, come on.
So Rivka and I thought we were obeying the tithe, because we were taking 10% of our income, and instead of sowing it to Zion's Hope or Marvin Rosenthal or some other ministry, we just took our 10% and threw it right back into our ministry, violating Devarim 12:17. You cannot tithe to yourself. Well, brother, I'll have you to know, I am the home group leader, Rabbi, Reverend, Dr., Mr., Doctor, Reverendo, Most High, the Grand Elyon. In my home fellowship. Now we have, it's my wife, and I, and my daughter. That's okay. We don't laugh because it's small. But so what we do is, because we're so small, in order to promote the ministry, we tithe, but we tithe to the ministry in our home.
In your gate.
Say that again? In your home.
Yeah.
Now who's in the ministry? My Chihuahua? My Jewfish? Goldfish? My dolphin, and my wife and my children. That's fine. We're not mocking small beginnings. But you can't tithe to your home. You've got to take the tithe outside of your gates in order for it to be paid to Yahweh. Devarim 14:22. You shall surely give the maaser of all the increase, not the net, all the, turn to your neighbor and say, all the increase. Not the net, all the increase of your zerah that the field brings forth year by year. In other words, 10% is an ongoing tithe. But now, let me sit please, in Devarim 14:22, we're confronted with what? Another tithe. Yahweh says, in addition to the ongoing 10%, every year, notice, every year that you have increase yearly, whether it's your field, your house, whatever you own, give. Now this, notice, this is not gross. This is net. This is of your increase. So the tithe is what? On everything, gross. But the annual tithe is not gross. The annual tithe is net. So now we have 10% ongoing. We have another 10% annually. Now we're up to what? 20%. 10 ongoing, 10% an annual tithe. Now look at verse 28. Are you with me? How many are with me? Two people? How many are still Baruch Hashem Yahweh? Devarim 14:28. I'm talking about breaking the financial curse during the counting of the Omer. I can care less if you obey or not. You should want to obey Yahweh, because you're not. I'm not going to benefit by you obeying. The kingdom is going to benefit. Does any of this make sense? Devarim 14:28. At the end of 3 years, notice, now we have ongoing giving, then we have the annual tithe. Devarim 14:28. At the end of 3 years, you shall bring the maaser, the 10% of all your increase, that means the gross, in the same year and lay it up within your gates. Notice. So we have 10% ongoing, we have 10% annually, and now we have 10% every 3 years. These are the three major tithes. Do you and I guard our life according to this formula? 10% ongoing, once a year, another 10% of when we pay our income tax, another 10%, and then the last 10% every 3 years. The last 10%, you'll see in a second, is for the orphan and the widow. You'll see that in a second. Yeah, this is pretty heavy, isn't it?
Come on.
But the rich folks don't mind paying Uncle Sam 40%, but they won't pay Abba Yahweh 30%. You getting the picture? You are paying. It's a matter of being obedient. Look at Devarim 26:12. Please turn to Devarim. I'm going to go quickly. Devarim 26:12. When they had made an end of tithing all the maaser,